KILR Killer Game.
Hello, gamers, simmers, and pilots. I am the Kill Gamer, and welcome back to the World Tour featuring Microsoft Flight Simulator 3. Alright, so we are going to be continuing our flight into Michigan now with scenery disc number 9. Number 9. Let's go ahead and talk about where we're going. Okay, so here is the map, and we are here at Benton Harbor, and we're going to be flying over here to Battle Creek, Michigan, and we're going to be landing at WK Kellogg. Now, don't be confused. It's not this. This is Kalamazoo, is what that is. So WK Kellogg Regional is that right there. And so as far as getting there, pretty much we should be able to tune into Battle Creek, and I think the VOR is pretty much centered on that, so we can tune that in. And I believe there is a ILS runway. Let's just go over here and take a look. Just look up Battle Creek. Okay, there it is on the top. And the ILS, there is one. It's runway 23. And it's got an ATIS as well. We'll tune in the ATIS, and it's going to give us a runway probably that we don't want, and that's fine. Because we're going to take runway 23 anyway. Because you know what I've said before, not every runway or not every airport has an ILS, although most of them usually do of some sort. And so, as you can see that right here with this list. And so whenever there is an ILS, I want to make use of it and be able to fly with it. Let's go ahead and get our radios all tuned in here so we can do our flight. Okay, so unlike Flight Simulator 2, we can set our DME for nav1 or nav2 using that B key right there, so that's kind of nice. So, Battle Creek. All right, 109.4. So we will tune this to 109.4. And I forgot to look up the ILS for that. I can kind of do that on the way, though. That's no big deal. How about we do this? How about we tune in KILR, which is just a little bit off of Benton Harbor, and that's 116.6, which we already have on nav1. Okay, so that works. And we'll set the VOR to, I don't know, 60? Alright, how did we do this? Was it V and the plus key? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's what we want. And nav2, I guess we couldn't change that to, what was it, runway 23 or something? Alright. My family's being noisy in the background. Anyway, we are set to go. Let's change nav1, or the DME from nav1 to nav2, and that's by pressing the B key. There we go, 52.6 miles to Battle Creek. and we will go ahead and get everything started here. We don't need the lights. We can turn that off. So just click on the side here until we get to start. And we got that wonderful sound. And I don't think it's too loud, so I'm looking at the recording meters and they seem to be fine. So let's see. Not sure which way we're facing, but maybe this runway right here we can take. I think that's what we'll do. And we have a numerical keypad this time, as opposed to the Commodore 64 version where we don't. Yeah, I just got done doing the recordings for Flight Simulator 2 for the Commodore 64. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we do want to take that runway. Let's go back this way. And the ones that had taxiways had lines for taxiways. And I don't mean that they were outlined, but more like, here's a line that represents a taxiway. So these are still SubLogic scenery discs. And they're converted from the Flight Simulator 2 discs. So I think we'll be able to see something a little better with these. And I think the ones for the Commodore Amiga are probably also good. At this time, I haven't recorded the Amiga versions of this flight, but I will get to that. For those of you watching this on YouTube, I get those same flights out every month. So the Commodore 64, the Commodore Amiga, and Flight Simulator 3 will have the same flight in the same month. Likewise, Sierra Pro Pilot and Pro Pilot 99 and Pro Pilot USA and Terminal Reality 1 and 2 will also have the same flights in the same month. Oh, and SubLogic flight, that one too. Ooh, I didn't realize I had so many. Oh, so many flight simulators. So much stuff to do. Now, you may have noticed that I said, those of you watching this on YouTube. Yes, something new that I've been doing lately is when recording these episodes, I'm actually live streaming them on Twitch. Whereas before, I used to do these just offline. And I just came up with the idea that, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I just live stream as I'm recording? And those that want to join me on the live stream can, and that means that you can be part of the show. You can interact with me. You can chat while we're flying. That is just an awesome, cool thing. So that's why I have been doing that. So if you haven't started following me over on Twitch, you should. It is twitch.tv/KILRgamer. KILR, remember. Why is it KILR? Well, because it goes back to when I did a radio station. I used to do radio stations on cassette tape when I was a teenager, and I had called it Radio 1990 at the time, which was based off of a music video show that also, which was on TV, and I forget which channel. And then later I called it Radio 1990, KILR FM, or KILR FM Radio 1990 is what I called it. And then I dropped the Radio 1990, and I just called it KILR FM, I think. And then when I found out that there was an actual KILR FM and it was a country station, I then changed it to KILR Radio, and that was also around the same time of the internet, when I actually brought the station to Live 365 when it was affordable. I had KILR Radio, KILR, and well, it all. I had another station called KILR Games, and then I've got some other stations I created on what's it called, Pandora, and then just KILR Television kind of resulted from that, as well as the KILR Gamer. So here we go, folks. Woo! This animation is so much more smoother than the Commodore 64. There she is, Benton Harbor. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oops. And that is Lake Michigan up ahead. And now it's time to make our way to Battle Creek. So that road there should get us in the right direction to Battle Creek. I believe we're going to be passing by Kalamazoo. Oof, I got to turn down the volume a little bit. That sound, that sound can really be hard in the ears after a while. Oh, the landing gear's still down. Guess we should just lift it up there. Funny, I'm like sitting there trying to adjust the trim, and I'm using the keyboard controls for the Commodore 64, and that don't work. Gotta use the numerical keypad. Alright, so we are trying to level out here. I think 4,000 will probably do it. We can use the autopilot, but I don't know, 49 miles, it's really not that far, so. And we got VOR 1 tuned in. It's not overly important that we connect with that radio, but it will help get us in the direction that we need to. Okay, so the ILS that we were talking about for WK Kellogg Regional. That's where we're going. Which actually still is called WK Kellogg. I thought it might have been called something else, but it's not. It's the same thing as before. Battle Creek. Okay, KBTL. Yeah, runway 23. Means we'll have to pass the airport and come around. 110.5. The ATIS is 127.25. We can go ahead and tune that in. Let's see if we get a signal. Nope, not yet. Not close enough. You know what? I think I've got my VORs messed up. my OBSs, I think I've got them messed up. I think I have the wrong radials. .6. Yeah, I do. I got these mixed up. 230 should be... Hold on. No, I don't. I got it right. That's right. Okay, that's what was messing me up, is because the DME is set for nav2. After playing the Commodore 64 one, and where you only get the DME on nav1, I forget that you can switch it here on Flight Simulator 3. You can put it on nav2. Oh my. I had a really big burrito. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I guarantee you that burrito was so big, that's gonna pretty much settle me for the rest of the night. And I'm recording several episodes together, so that way I can get them edited and scheduled. Because, as you know, I do a lot of videos, and so the only way that I can actually keep up with all of that is to do filming in a block. So maybe 3 or 4 episodes at a time, and then I have those together where I can work on them and edit them and schedule them out, and so that's how I'm able to get as many episodes as I can on the channel. And what's cool about Twitch is if you join me over on Twitch on the live streams, you will be able to get to see this footage unedited. So most of the flight itself is as you actually see it. I don't really edit anything out unless there was some type of technical glitch or something. Other things that I might edit out if I have a lot of, I don't know, let's call them Twitchers. If I have a lot of Twitchers that are on the channel watching at the time, I will have more interaction with them and talk about what it is that I'm doing with the world tour and everything, which makes the episode a lot longer, especially if it's already after we've landed. If it's during the flight, it's during the flight. No big thing. But if it's something like at the end of the flight, we've already, landed, I don't want to make an episode that could be 30 or 40 minutes long into an hour and a half video where I'm just blah, 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 talking. So I will cut stuff like that out. But I will still give a shout out to those that watch me. Not only will you hear me chat with people during the actual stream, but I will also put it into the description, and as far as a thank you for joining me on the stream. So credit where credit is due. Because without you, there wouldn't be much of a channel. And I'm really happy that I can do something that I enjoy and be able to touch people's lives with it. You know, all over the world. I mean, that's an incredible thing, I think. When you can touch people's lives out there and provide them some kind of entertainment. That they can enjoy, that they may not be able to see anywhere else, or may not be able to experience for themselves. So there may be quite a few people out there that, you know, they love Flight Simulator 3, or they never heard about it but were intrigued by it, you know, but they don't want to go through the process of trying to obtain it and get it to work on DOSBox or, you know, whatever, but they just want to see some flights with it. And that's what this is for. This is for me. That way I can experience this simulator, because I didn't experience it back when this came out. My first PC simulator was 5.1. So I went from the Commodore 64 to the Commodore Amiga to PC 5.1. So I never did fly Microsoft Flight Simulator 2, 3, or 4. Not until I started working on this world tour. And quite honestly, I was not sure if I wanted to do Flight Simulator 3, because 3 and 4 look identical. 4 is actually a more complete version than 3. But I decided to just chug along and actually do Flight Simulator 3, and I'm glad I did. I'm doing the flights, even though they're the same, I'm doing the flights a little bit differently with Flight Simulator 3. And since they are limited to the SubLogic scenery discs, it has to follow the same flight plan as the Commodore 64, the Amiga, and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2. So it allows us to see the SubLogic scenery at its best. Now 4, I started off with the SubLogic scenery disc, but I also added in custom content. Some of it I created, because that was the first simulator you could do that with. And we're able to take that in the areas that we can't take this one and the ones before it. And I'm hoping to get back to that part of the World Series soon. Hopefully, some of them may have started to come out already. By the time I get this one episode released. And see, what's really been helping me out is it takes time. It really takes a lot of time when you're streaming, when you're recording, and all that. And I do more stuff than just Flight Simulator. I do also The Sims, as well as other simulation type games. And various different people come to the channel and they enjoy it, so I want to be able to take care of them. And I also do cinematic videos, because I know people like cinematics of Flight Simulator, and that gives me a chance to be more creative. Instead of just playing a game, I'm actually doing something creative with it, so I like the cinematics in that respect. Plus I compose original music for it. I use a program called Magic's Music Maker, and so I buy these collections of loops and beats and stuff, and I put all that together. That's why I say I compose the music, not write the music. To me, composing is putting things together. Writing is like writing everything from scratch. I do want to actually get into actually writing stuff too, but one thing at a time. Okay, this up ahead, I believe, is Kalamazoo. It's kind of nice to be able to see it look a bit nicer than what it did on the Commodore 64. Although the sky is not as blue. It's more of a light blue. Well, I guess sky blue. But it's not a brown patch on the ground. But the position of it and everything is the same. So we're linking up here. Our radio 060, and whoops, we're still going that direction. I don't want to go that direction. I want to be on the right side of 060. There we go. Of course, I may need to adjust that. Yeah, I need to adjust that big time. Let's make it 080. Because right now I've got to point it on the wrong side of the airport because we need to come around so that way we can use the ILS. So we're going to set this to 080. That means we're going to have to turn this way. So, hey, we're going to be flying closer to Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo, that just sounds like a cool name, doesn't it? It almost sounds like a magic word or something, like Kalamazoo. Something from Harry Potter. So, if Kalamazoo was an actual magic word, what would it do? Let me know in the comments what you think. And use complete sentences. Use a complete sentence as in, what they taught you in school. I believe Kalamazoo as a magic word would do this. The reason why I say that is I get some comments on my videos and I can't remember what it was that I might have said in the video that you're commenting on. So use a complete sentence in the comments section, just for my benefit, so that way I'll know what it is that you're referring to, because again, I film all this stuff in advance, and so by the time you comment on it, it could be several months past after I've recorded it, and I want to be able to know what it was that you commented on. So I'm like, oh yeah. Rip01 has joined us on the live stream. How you doing, buddy? He says, oh, memories. Yes, indeed. So I'm guessing this was your first flight simulator? Possibly? Or maybe Flight Simulator 2? I did not fly this back in the day. This is all new to me. Well, for the past year and a half. Ah, the ZX Spectrum by Scion Flight Simulator. I bet Flight Simulator 3, when it came out, was a nice step up. My first was the Commodore 64. Ah, there is Kalamazoo. That's the Kalamazoo Airport. Also now called Battle Creek International. I believe that is what that is over there. Yeah, I went from the Commodore 64 to the Commodore Amiga, which is what Flight Simulator 3 and 4 are based off of. They're based off of the SubLogic, although it was still called SubLogic Flight Simulator 2. It was what considered the third generation when it came out for the Commodore Amiga and the Atari ST, and I think there was another one. Because the graphics on the Amiga and Flight Simulator 3 look very close to the same. There are some minor differences. But I'd have to say that a lot of my memories go back to the Commodore 64 because I had all the scenery discs for it. I had the whole Western United States scenery discs 1 through 6. And then whatever else they released on the east side, which was 7, 9, and 11. They never released 12 for the Commodore 64. They did for the Commodore Amiga, and, well, they did for the PC. And 8 and 10 were never released at all. So you could not fly in those areas. Those areas included North and South Dakota and Montana, the upper part of like Minnesota and Michigan. And then the other area was over by Louisiana and Georgia. That's kind of a bummer that they never finished that up. But they did release SubLogic USA East and SubLogic USA West, which I do have, which you can use on Flight Simulator 4. And you can use it on 5, but why would you? Use it on Flight Simulator 4. And yeah, the graphics are definitely a nicer step up from that. But you could also use the USA East and West with SubLogic ATP. And I want to say SubLogic Flight, but no, I don't think so. I think SubLogic Flight, the scenery is... No, yeah, I think you could. But the version of SubLogic Flight that I have is on CD-ROM, and so it already has all that scenery on there, and even it is a little step up from that. Flight Path 737. I haven't played that. Should look that up here. Look that up during our flight here. Let's see. Flight Path. Maybe I should do a video on it. Flight Path 737. Commodore 64. Ooh. That looks like a cartridge game. Someone did a video. Flight Path 737. Is it a flight sim? Oh, they have it for the Commodore Amiga, too. Ooh. Well, we may have to do a video on that. Boy, that thing... That looks interesting. Emulator for the ZX Spectrum. I might have an emulator for it. I haven't really found any games that piqued my interest on the ZX Spectrum. But if there are games that you are interested in seeing, or seeing a game review on, because I do game reviews over on YouTube as well, let me know. I am good for suggestions. I definitely want to take care of you guys out there and provide some good quality content for you. because that is the greatest thing about independent video makers. We get to have our voice out there. We don't have to take whatever corporations give us. 14.5 miles away. Aha! Our little needle is moving here. That's good. So we're flying over Kalamazoo at the moment. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is Interstate 94. I don't know if you just saw that. I think this is Interstate 94. I was like moving my mouse over it, but I think it was the one for my regular Windows computer, and I don't think you could see it. Yeah, and this has been a very amazing experience for me, doing this World Tour series. And all these episodes are over on YouTube. And I started off at Meg's because you just have to. If you're going to do a world tour, got to start off at Meg's. And we have been flying and hitting all the same airports that we've been doing. I wonder what airport that is. That we've been doing on all the other simulators, which is great if you want to see some comparisons. And this is allowing me to create all new memories with a simulator that I did not play originally, and it's been a great experience. And with the World Tour, I play these old ones first, and then I move up to the next one and the next one and the next one, and it's just neat being able to see the same flight and how it starts to look as the simulators move forward. So how it winds up looking in Flight Simulator 5 and 98 and 2000, etc. Until I get to X-Plane, and then it's like I'm seeing everything almost how it really is. I say almost because the ortho photos are great. The AutoGen sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Like as far as placements, sometimes it's placed really well, and other times where you would expect to see some commercial buildings or a mall, you got trees on top of it instead. But Flight Simulator 2020 is, at least from what I've been able to see, is gonna fix all that. And are we going to do the world tour on that? You better believe it. How am I going to fly from Meg's? I don't know. I guess I figure I'll just start off on the island and take off. That might be kind of a bumpy ride. Or I'll use a seaplane and fly off from the edge and then go to O'Hare. That was our first flight. So what airport is that? I did not think there was another airport out here. Unless that's Kalamazoo. That can't be Kalamazoo. Can it? Maybe that is. That might... No, sorry, not Kalamazoo. WK Kellogg. I think it is. 8 miles, and that's it? Okay. Let's look up the ILS then. I forget the frequency on it. It was like 105 something. Where are you, Battle Creek? There you are. 110.5. Well, it had a 5 in it. Okay. 110.5. Okay, so V1 plus or minus change that to 2.3. Probably should do 2.3.4. And then hit the B key, which will change our DME from nav2 to nav1. And yep, I'm pretty sure that's it. Alright, so we'll start getting some flaps down, which have no sound effects. The only sound effect you hear is the engine. Although I do think we will hear the beacons, the outer, middle, and inner, sometimes inner, marker beacons. So fun fact, if you don't have the sound and graphics upgrade installed for Flight Simulator 4, you will get the same exact sound effect as Flight Simulator 3. But if you do have it installed, the engine sounds just like the one from the Commodore Amiga, but then unlike the Commodore Amiga, you've got sounds for the flaps and other stuff which they carried over into Flight Simulator 5, I've noticed. Yeah, we need to get our altitude down here. Let's see, 5 miles within the airport. Let's do a little bit more slowing down here. Oh, you know, something that would really help is the landing gear, but let's let's get ourselves lined up with the runway first. So there she is, WK Kellogg. We're going there to get a bowl of cereal. I don't know who WK Kellogg is, actually. One thing I forgot to mention, on the X-Plane series, since it has a little bit more realism to it, I do a documentary series with that. So the places that we fly to, I do this little virtual trip into town. So I put together a animation with still frames from Google Street View. So I put together an animation. So it looks like we're driving into town, and then we'll talk about the stuff that's there. So I'll pull up their websites and pictures, and so you know, it's half a flight and half a documentary, and it's got some music going on in the background, and that one takes time to put together, and it's not, and the world tour on that one is not as far as it should be. So, I believe we've passed the airport now. Kind of. Trying to get our rate of descent. I'm trying to level off at the moment because I'm looking at our glide slope indicator. Make use of our power. That's cool that you've got a screenshot of your first and latest flight sim. And the Scion and FS Labs on P3D 4.5. I haven't done the world tour on P3D yet, because that one is going to be a special version. I'm doing something very special for that one. I try to do something different for all. They do all the same flight plan, but I try to give it a different experience in terms of expansions and add-ons and how I try to present stuff. So Flight Simulator 2000 has turned into more of a comedy flight because I can add air traffic, and with the air traffic I can add WAV files. So I've got pilots talking over the air that I used text-to-speech with, and it's not the most professional speech you'd ever hear in your life. But they are fun, so... In 2002, that was one that I hadn't played when it first came out, because I went from... FS98 was my jam right there. With ProFlight 98, having the ATC, oh wow, that was just awesome. And I did have Flight Simulator 2000. I flew it like 3 times, and that was it. And we're only 4.5 miles out. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and turn anyway. And then I had some life-changing stuff happen in the year 2000. So I kind of fell out of Flight Simulator. Also, The Sims came out in the year 2000, and I got totally hooked into The Sims. But Flight Simulator 2004 came out, and I went right back to that. I fell in love with Flight Simulator 2004. With the Amiga, you got the 500K expansion. That sounds familiar. Is that thing that plugged in on the side? That sounds like the Amiga 500 expansion for the Amiga 500. Which I had that. Underneath, okay. Yeah, I had something like that too. What's our VOR doing here? Look at this. We got the VOR tuned in. Oh, or do we? I think we do. Yeah, 110.5. So I don't know what it's doing. It's off. So we may be landing without the ILS. Yes, and I do have my discs for 98, 2000, 2002, and FSX also. That doesn't seem like that is runway 23, does it? I'm almost tempted on landing on that runway anyway. Oh well. We go to the same airports, but we don't necessarily land on the same runway. Nah. Let's try to use the ILS runway. We never have enough of those in this tour. This is going to be an interesting turn here. Alright, we're coming around here. My Amiga 500, I still have it, but it doesn't work. I tried doing some type of upgrade to the chipset, and I think I fried it or something, because it just doesn't turn on now. This is runway 27. Gee, I hope this is the... Oh, geez, landing gear. That's carb heat. Don't crash, don't crash, crash. Ugh. I think that was a hard landing. All right. What we're going to want to do is check the coordinates and see if this is... No, this has got to be it. Yeah, because the DME. That's right. So where was runway 23? It must have been on another angle or something. Oh, well. We landed. All right, so let's go get some fuel. The fuel... Here, let's go to the map here. Let's see, map. Map display. Okay, you can... Oh, this has got lines for taxiways too. This is just like Commodore 64. I was hoping that the taxiways would be filled in. They are not. This one is. This one here is. So I guess we'll just go off the runway to this line and take the line and follow it around. We got our fuel box. It's right over there, though. You've got to use your imagination when it comes to the old flight simulator. We're not moving. Why are we not moving? There it goes. Yeah, so this scenery is practically identical. As I've been doing these flights, there have been some differences, but generally they're about the same. Which is kind of good, because like how I mentioned, like scenery disc number 12 was not made for the Commodore 64. At least I will still be able to somewhat experience that scenery by using Flight Simulator 3 and also the Commodore Amiga. I would say Flight Simulator 4, but I would be using SubLogic USA East for the scenery for that. And I do have a separate series that's a cinematic series for Flight Simulator 4 called Flight Simulator 4 Adventures. And that one I go all out and crazy with. It's a cinematic series. And not only do I use the SubLogic USA East and West, but I also create some custom content for the airports. Not a lot, just, you know, add a few buildings to try to make it a little bit more closer to what it is in reality. I add air traffic, and I program custom adventures for it as well, to the point where you can hear the tower talking to you, and you can hear the pilot talking back. And then I have some retro music that I've composed with a very old version of Magic Music Maker in certain areas of the flight. Because I know there are people out there that love cinematic flights. Some just like the actual flight, and some like to have music with it, and mine have a little bit of both. Takes care of both types of viewers. And in case I wanted to jump on my soapbox, it's right in front of us. Not only can we get fuel here, but we can also get on the soapbox and talk about whatever needs to be talked about. And this is the same fuel box that we went to on the Commodore 64. Same exact one. The animation is just better. Eep. There we go. And we'll just go ahead and turn that plane off right there. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching this flight here at WK Kellogg as we go and get some cereal. Kellogg cereal, it's always good. Yum, yum. All right, but anyway, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe so that way you'll be notified. Well, you got to ring that notification bell too, or click it, or, you know, pound it, or smash it, or, you know, whatever the case is. You're going to want to do that so that way you get notified of the next video that is uploaded to the channel. And thumbs up and as many likes as you can give on these videos would extremely help me out and the channel. And leaving some comments so I know that you're out there and that you're liking what you're seeing. And remember, you can see these on Twitch way before anyone else will be able to see them here on YouTube, and you get to interact with me. So be sure you follow me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/KILRGamer. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next leg of the journey. Have a good one.